let's get into it. So compounding your growth, and we're going to use your clinic, of course, as what we're going to try and compound. Hi, my name is Mark Bentz, and I'm the owner of one of the largest multidisciplinary clinics in Canada. I started the Virtual CEO because I wanted to take clinic owners from overworked, underpaid, to living life on your terms and a clinic that is extremely profitable. Now, this is what happens with people. They get onto social media, they're listening to Facebook, Instagram, they talk about, oh my God, I'm gonna 10x my business. You know, that's wonderful if you're selling a program, that gets people's interest, but practically, realistically, you wanna just compound your business, and really compounding by 10% is amazing success. And just, I'll give you an example. So $100, because you talk about compounding in financial terms usually, that's where it's always represented. So $100 at 10% interest is $110 at the end of the year. At the end of the second year, 10% of 110 now is 11. So now it's 121. And that's how it goes every year after that. So pick your number, but please don't fall into the hallucination that you're gonna 10x your business. You may come across some amazing successes, and as you build a strong foundation, sure, you can have therapists join you, maybe 1, 2, or 3 therapists join you over a couple months. And you're like, wow, man, that really just blew it open and I'm making so much money. That's not the norm. That absolutely isn't the norm. And when you're small, it's pretty unrealistic to have that happen because you need a foundation when those therapists join to actually get traction with new patients. So don't get addicted to the 10x crap you hear on Facebook and Instagram. It really simply is so you buy their video program or whatever else they're selling. Get realistic, grow your business slowly, make sure it's got the strong foundation, and then at the end of the day, you can sleep at night with a solid understanding that your business is amazing and you've built something that really, really works. Okay, so let's get into a bit more. So when you talk about compounding and you bring on a therapist, how do you get their growth going? Well, we all know how to get a therapist growth going is through initials. That's number one, right? If they don't get initials, they don't build a practice. Pretty obvious. But I'll go back to my example in a previous video, but let's just go through this one example to give you some clarity on this issue. If you bring on a therapist, and if you say, okay, my clinic, it gets 10 initials. And of course, those initials will go to some people in the clinic already, and a few of them will trickle to your new therapist. So let's just use an example of 10 new initials a week. Now let's use the number of that initial, or those initials, will come in on average 5 times. So now you brought in 10 initials, they're gonna come in 5 times. That's a total of 50 visits. If you just use a basic number, I've used it many times because on average that's what it costs, it's $50 from the internet, each initial coming in. So we're just going to use the internet for now because there are other variables. If it's a personal referral, there's no cost. And of course, those are the best referrals. But let's just go with the money right now because it really makes it clear. So 10 initials, $50. That means you spent $500 and they're coming in 5 times. So now you've got 50 appointments and you've spent $500 for those 50 appointments. The next week, the same thing happens. The next week, the same thing happens. The next week, the same thing happens. So let's times that out by 4. 50 times 4 is 200 visits you've created out of bringing in 40 initials. Those 40 initials times $50 cost you $2,000. So you can see, very clear. Now let me give you another example to balance this off. And this can happen if you're not watching and doing your metrics. Bring in the same 10 initials. They only stay for an average of 2 visits. So some may stay 4, some may stay 1, but on average, let's go 2 visits. So those 10 initials now at 2 visits are 20 appointments in total. Now, the next week we repeat it. The next week we repeat it. The next week we repeat it. So let's go back. 40 initials again, but you've only created 80 full appointments. That is dramatically different than our previous example. What do you need to do now to catch up to that first example? You need more initials. Now you can see how expensive this becomes because you actually need 2.5 times more initials to get to those 5 initials, right? Because you're only seeing them twice. Now that's expensive. $50 times initial, you need 50 initials. That's $1,250 you're spending to get the exact same outcome that you did if you had someone come in 5 times. That's why the treatment plan, the therapeutic relationship, the stuff I'm always hammering you guys is so bloody important. It's crucial that you stare at this, and especially with your therapeutic team. Don't let it get away from you. Do the numbers, follow up with the team, make sure they're on track, make sure they understand that therapeutic relationship, because both of those examples makes a busy clinic. The first one probably is going to make you a profitable clinic. The second one is causing you to go broke. But if you don't look at it, you're going to go, oh, I'm busy. Therapist's going to go, oh, we're busy. Second one is you're busy going broke. Or your profit margins are so low that it doesn't make sense for you to run the business. You've just created a stressful job, and that is unfortunate. And I just had a conversation with a lady last week. 5 therapists making no money, still stuffing money into the business. She's stressed out, she's broke. She's telling me she didn't know how hard it would be. The classic, everybody's got the classic statements. It's hard, pay attention. But that's how powerful compounding can be. You incrementally build that growth, and then you just watch it reap the benefits. And when you get up to larger numbers, 10 therapists, 20 therapists, 30 therapists, when done well, it really takes off. Because now you've got the numbers on your side. Done poorly, you go broke. I don't want to see that. It's definitely not what I want to see. Okay, so that's compound growth with therapists. Now the second part to that is the patient experience. So how are they treated at the front desk? How are they treated with the booking experience ahead of time? How are they treated when they paid at the end? Do you take insurance? Did you bill their insurance company? Like, what is that business model you've created? Because the patient experience is essential. If the therapist does their job, then your patient experience has to be really, really foolproof. Because if they're getting pissed off when they call, maybe they can't get their phone calls answered, maybe you don't have an online system, which seems ridiculous these days, but maybe you don't. Then they can't book an appointment by themselves. They can't cancel an appointment by themselves. So what does the patient experience look like? Are you doing follow-up calls? Like, are you actually finding out what your patients have been experiencing? Please make sure you are. We do it with every initial. And it's awesome to hear all the great things our therapist is doing. And every so often, we get some really good feedback, which allows me to go back to the entire team and tweak our processes. So we keep our patient experience at the highest level we can. And remember, there's always another level you can reach. So that's the second part of that. Another part is the admin. How do you compound your admin? And what I mean by that is, how do you keep your admin team around for long periods of time? Admin might not be the most exciting job for some people, but you gotta paint a pathway for them where they're gonna grow. And if you paint a pathway for them to grow, then they're gonna stick with you. But if they're just simply answering the phones, doing basic, just benign jobs, they're getting no support, they don't feel part of the team, maybe therapists talk down to them. I've had that before many times. Therapists thinking the admin staff is some sort of slave service at their beck and call, and that's just fact. Like, if you have that, stop it immediately. But that's a whole other video. But yeah, watch out for that. So your admins team is a crucial part, massive part, man. They're the ones that are oiling the whole wheel, man. They're making it happen. So how do you support them? How do they stick with you? I've been extremely lucky. I've had people stick with me for years. Actually, the gal behind the camera stuck with me 5-6 years already. And I'm not an easy guy to stick with. But I really appreciate her. And a shout out to Emma. She's awesome. And she's grown in the company, and we're doing great things with her. But there's lots of people as you grow your company that you need to focus on to figure out, hey, how do they fit in? How is it that they can grow in your company? That's what's really important, because turnover is expensive. So to not have turnover, you need to compound it, right? You need to have one person turn into 2 people, turn into 3 people. When they've all been around for a few years, boy, the synergies of how things work is amazing. But if you're reinventing the wheel with everybody, it's exhausting. And again, it's just you're back to this stressful job. You don't want a stressful job. You want amazing people around you so you feel happy when you get the work. And you go, yeah, that's cool. And then when shit happens, you go, hey, that's okay. Shit's always going to happen. Please, it's always there. Don't worry about that. That's never ending. But you feel a lot better working with your team when you're a cohesive unit. And that comes with compounding your admin staff. So we're going to do a separate video on that. And please watch that. Now, the third thing about compounding your clinic, and this is a real bonus, but I really empower you to look at this opportunity. Might not be the easiest for you, but I would stare it down. Find an investor to buy your clinic space. Now, if you can't, if you don't have the resources, as I say, find an investor. If you have the resources, when I first started out downtown, I banked everything. Everything I had, I put into buying this place, and I was able to buy it, and I hung on, and it's been the best decision I've ever made. So if you can do it yourself, maybe it's a mom, it's a dad, it's a friend, who knows? But the security of having your own space compounds each and every year. And it's really important. Now, these clinics you're starting and they're around forever. These are long-term viable businesses if run well. If not, stressful job. So if you're around forever and you build a strong foundation, it behooves you to buy the real estate. It gives you the control. I mentioned this in an old an old video. And what happened was, in a clinic I had about, a long time now, 25 years, the guy doubled the rent on me when the lease came up after 3 years. And I was blown away, and I was naive and immature at the time. I had no idea that could happen. And he's like, yeah, your rent's up. He saw that I went from a startup to a business that was really growing. He's like, it's time I make some money on your rent, which again, may be fair the way he sees it. But my business model didn't really account for doubling the rent. And so I promised myself, you know what, I'm buying my real estate as much as I can because I want to be in charge of my destiny. So that's a bonus, guys. If you can, please go find an investor. Just leasing space, oh my God, you're just burning your money over time. You may need to start that way. But if you really want to compound your efforts year after year after year after year, 21 years in this building I've been, I assure you I've compounded my benefit through buying that real estate. So guys, there it is. 3 of them. Compound your therapist, compound your admin staff, and the bonus is compound that real estate. Again, take action. Love hearing from you guys. Talk soon.